Hi, welcome back to Sahara TV. My name is Reuben Abati. We are marking the Democracy Day and 1 year in office of President Goodluck Jonathan. And we have a very special guest today. For the first time on Sahara TV, we have Dr. Reuben Abati, who is the spokesman for the president. Dr. Abati, welcome to Sahara TV.
Thank you, Rudolph.
Let me start by asking you, what is your assessment of the president's performance in the past 1 year?
Are you asking for my personal opinion?
Your personal assessment. Your personal assessment.
I think that, essentially we should focus on the president's speech on Democracy Day. In that speech, the president focused on the major highlights of his administration in the past 1 year. And that emphasis that you find in that speech is deliberate. For the reason that a lot of Nigerians, they come up with this assumption, cynical assumption, if I may say so, that the administration has done nothing, that the administration has failed. They make it seem as if nothing has happened in our lives in the last 1 year. And if there is anything that is achieved in that speech, it is simply to prove to the cynics that indeed a lot has happened in the last 1 year. And that this administration has been productive, and that it has been responsive, and that it has been responsible, and that it has worked at all points in the interest of Nigerians. If I may just draw attention to some of the highlights of that speech. One, the president made a point about how his administration has succeeded in stabilizing our democracy. He pointed out how, when he took over, he made it very clear that he will ensure free and fair elections and that he will ensure stability within the party. And nobody can controverse this. He has kept that promise. Under President Jonathan's watch, the fear about the country drifting into a state of anarchy, of chaos, of the country being taken over by nihilists, that was checked. He admitted that there are still challenges, but those challenges are, of course, being addressed.
So okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Also, it is common knowledge that the elections that were held in April 2011, which brought him into power, were generally accepted, regarded by all and sundry as free, fair, and credible. And they have gone beyond that to use this, of course, to create opportunities for Nigeria within the international arena. Nigeria today is a much more respected country. Nigeria continues to show a lot of leadership within the international arena. I can just step back a little bit and compare what the situation was a few years back to what now. You were going to say something.
Yeah, Dr. Abati, I was wondering, for people who are watching this today, they will be wondering,
yes,
do you really believe that, for instance, the state of anarchy, that the things are better today than they were 1 year ago in terms of security in the country, or that the election of 2011 was better than the election we had in 1993 that had Abiola winning the election? How do you say, look at the people of Nigeria and say these things, and they want, is it true? Is it really true that we had a better
the 2011 election?
Yeah.
The 2011 elections, all of us were here. All the observers, everyone said, look, this election is free and fair. And the point was that since the return to democracy in 1999, you cannot take that credit away that it was a very credible process.
But let me say,
the second point that you made about security.
Yeah.
The president himself admitted that much, that there are security challenges. Hence, in that speech, he talked about the new security architecture, the fresh national counter-terrorism strategy that his administration is coming up with. Which is to say, yes, we have this problem, but we're not sleeping over it. We're not giving up. We're doing a lot to address it.
Now, when law courts overturn elections that were supposedly free and fair, doesn't that make the elections not to be free and fair? Especially when the reason for the overturn are something to do with fraud. How do we come back to say that this was the most freest election in the country's history?
But you know, when the phrase is used, free, fair, and credible, it is done in relative terms. It's not in absolute terms. What that means is that there will still be a few cases. But if you compare to what we had in the past, you see that relatively, you can make that assertion.
Now let's leave that. Let's leave it specific. Let's look at the bigger picture. Viewers and most Nigerians, a lot of them are feeling that the government has not performed. And I know that where you are, you think that the government, they've been doing a lot of great things. My question is, why is there a divide? Why does it look like people in Aso Rock, they are in a bubble, and people outside Aso Rock, they have a different viewpoint about what's happening? Why are you not communicating well? What is going on?
Well, I mean, you just put your finger on it, and a lot of people say this, that perhaps we have not done enough of communicating the administration's achievements. But then, you know, on May 29, the president brought out many of those issues. In fact, before his speech, there was the ministerial platform organized by the Ministry of Information, where every minister was asked to take the podium and offer an account to the Nigerian people what that particular minister has done, you know, with that ministry. And this went on for at least about 2 weeks or so before the president's speech on that occasion. And if you take that speech and you deconstruct it, you will find that the picture that he paints is that of a humble president giving an honest account of what he has done in the last 12 months. And I've read some of the comments on that particular speech. I've not had anyone saying, oh, this is not true, this is not true. Instead, what people are saying is, no, we expect a lot more.
Now,
and that's a legitimate explanation. And the president made it clear that, look, yes, we have done this, we have done that, but we can do a lot more because we know that Nigerians have a lot of expectations.
Now, your approach to your job has been most of the time aggressive. You react to things and it kind of pushes people back. But there was an instant of this story that broke about the 155 billion naira that was paid to Malibu Oil and Mr. Atete. We didn't hear your reaction. We are wondering, why did you keep quiet at that instant?
No, you are talking about, is it OPL 245 or OPL 247?
Yes.
Now, the Attorney General of the Federation, because some of the issues raised in that instance were legal issues, were issues dealing with processes. And the Attorney General issued a statement making it very clear that this is a business transaction. Now, what I have seen also is a desperate attempt by certain persons to drag President Jonathan into it. Whereas President Jonathan is not a personal thing, okay? It's just a business matter according to the, as explained by the Attorney General of the Federation. But what has now happened is that even the House of Reps has taken up the matter, okay? And the matter is out there in the public opinion. But it may get to a stage, of course, when the presidency will need to offer, you know, further interventions beyond what the Attorney General has said. So
is the president going to explain to us, through you or somebody else, where the money went to, how the money was disbursed, and who got what? But the AGF already offered an explanation of what exactly happened. I don't have his statement right here with me, but if it becomes necessary, the Attorney General may further clarify the position of government. Now, let me ask you, in all conscious, I mean, how are you staying in that position when the president has not yet declared his assets? You as a commentator would have been one of those people, when you were a commentator, hitting on this. Why has the president not declared his assets as required by law? Well, you can't be too sure about that, because the assets, if the assets are declared, the president is not going to declare his assets on the pages of newspapers. So are you saying he has done that? Is done with the Code of Conduct Bureau. So are you saying that he has done it? Has he done it?
Well, we should go and check, but I know that the president will declare his assets.
No, it should have been done by now because he should have been. Yeah.
Just a moment.
Okay.
Everyone that is a member of this government was required to declare his or her assets.
So did he do it?
The Code of Conduct Bureau even organized a seminar on the importance of the exercise.
Yeah.
And that bureau will not exclude the president or anybody else.
Okay, one, I want to know, did he do it? You work with him every day. Did he do it, and when are we going to know what it is? Because it should be public, I believe.
Well, you check with the Code of Conduct Bureau.
So
because the Code of Conduct Bureau has all the records. You don't expect that the president will come on television and say, these are my assets.
So
the Code of Conduct Bureau makes sure that everyone had to declare their assets.
Now let me ask you, how do you think you've been doing in that job as a spokesman of the president?
Well, I cannot assess myself.
What are you hearing from your friends?
You already said that I'm very aggressive. People even say I'm too timid.
What are you hearing from your friends who are still in the media?
Hear from them how? We work together.
And what do you think about it? What do you think about the performance of the media in the last 1 year? Have they been critical? Have they been lenient? How are they performing? How are they viewing your government? How do you see their performance?
Well, I believe that they've been critical.
Okay.
But you see, of course, that is in the nature of the media. But what we need to continue to do at this end is to continue to provide a lot of information. Because I read a lot of commentaries, I read a lot of the stories, and I shake my head. Because it is very clear that those things are said, those things are written, from lack of information. And that's why I said you were right when you said earlier that maybe we're not doing enough communicating to the public. And it's a lesson that we have learned after the furore over the due regulation of the downstream sector. And we just need to do a lot more at this end to explain government positions.
Now, there are a lot of inquiries we hear from the National Assembly, about the oil scam, the oil subsidy scam, different things. What is, when they get to the office of the presidency, the reports, what happens to the report? Do they disappear, or what happens?
Well, the one that you're talking about actually is the, I guess, the fuel subsidy report. And we have made it very clear that the president will not condone corruption, that the president will not condone any act of impunity, that the president will not condone any wrongdoing. Even when we made this point, a lot of people were cynical. They did not believe that this was the position of the president. And we even made it clear that the president will act always in the best interest of Nigerians. And people were speculating and making all kinds of assumptions. The report had not yet even reached the desk of the president. The moment the report got to him, we announced that he had received the report and immediately directed the AGF to take a look at the report and to refer the relevant portions to the EFCC. And that has been done.
Now you talk about the president not condoning corruption, but let's look at the past governors, those that left power. Nothing has been heard about all the issues about investigating them or bringing any of them to justice. I mean, there are so many cases that we hear about, but nothing happens. Why is that? Why is it that we don't see action behind the words?
Many of these cases that you are referring to, they did not occur under President Jonathan's watch. But that cases already been handled by EFCC. But you will recall that one of the first things that President Jonathan did was to strengthen the leadership of the EFCC and the ICPC. And even as we speak, steps are being taken to further strengthen the two agencies. Now, beyond that, there are steps that this administration has taken to address the issue of corruption. Maybe perhaps because they don't have the electronic content, a lot of people do not give the president enough credit for that. Take, for example, what has been done with port reform. I mean, it was this president that sent a task force to the ports in Lagos and decided to reduce the number of agencies at the port. Because it was very clear that those agencies are there functioning more as roadblocks rather than units. that will promote or facilitate enterprise or trade or or commerce. Now, the ports used to be a center of great delay, also because there were a lot of blockages. Now, it was this administration also that made sure that goods can now be cleared at the port within 7 days. And the level of effectiveness at the port has also been increased. That is one. It was also the same President Jonathan that set up the on-site committee. The duty of the on-site committee was to take a look at the ministries, departments, and agencies and look at areas of duplication, leakages, wastage. Now, you know, of course, that when there are leakages and wastages and a lot of duplication, that has implications for the wage bill. A lot of people feeding fat on the system. Okay? That has been done. And a white paper will be released. And the intention of government is to use that also to check the leaking basket. Now third, if I may just quickly say this before you comment. The issue about the deregulation of the downstream sector, popularly known as a fuel subsidy removal. It was a move against corruption. It was as a result of government intervention that this whole thing about the fuel subsidies came to light. Then also look at the pension scam. It was as a result of investigations ordered by President Jonathan. All these are issues relating to corruption. But we understand the position of people to want the courts, to prosecute people, to jail people. And that was why in President Jonathan's speech, there was a particular statement there that the support of the courts is required and the courts are expected to do a lot more.
Okay, Dr. Abati, let me ask you. There are stories about whether Nigeria is broke or not. Is Nigeria broke? And all these issues about corruption around fuel subsidy. When are we going to get people actually tried? I want to, because we're running out of time, I want you to be, very concise in your answers so that we can
wrap it up. There is a confusion about whether Nigeria is broke or insolvent. And I think that the CBN governor and the coordinating minister of the economy, they've already addressed this at different forums. Now, a country with a kind of foreign reserve, which has increased to over $38 billion, you cannot say such a country is broke. Nigeria is not broke. What people need to know is that this whole controversy arose out of somebody saying that, the government faces issues of insolvency. And then that was interpreted by the reporters to mean that the country is broke. And any student, elementary student, any student of elementary economics will tell you that there's a difference between insolvency and being broke. If government is insolvent, it means it has, challenges with payments and all that. And that is different from being broke.
Okay, one last question.
What was the other leg of the question?
The question was about corruption in the oil subsidy and why nobody has been held accountable, especially when they are mainly friends of the president, people who supported the president and were part of the campaign.
No, but I just told you that after the president received the report from the National Assembly, that report was handed over to the AGF for appropriate action. And of course, that the justice process, it has its own procedures. Okay, and the Attorney General of the Federation came out and said that persons who have been indicted will be brought to book. And all Nigerians need to do is to just wait and watch. But I can assure you that this president is not going to cover up anybody.
Okay,
because he knows the expectations of Nigerians, he understands what Nigerians want, and is determined to transform this country.
Okay, let me add one last question. In Enugu recently, the president made a speech where he said something like that the amalgamation of Nigeria, the problem of Nigeria started at the amalgamation, that he is not responsible. It didn't start with him. Now, I think we elected a president to solve problems, not to complain about them. Why is it that the speeches the president make often end up being not helping the administration in terms of portraying what your administration is trying to solve? How does that happen? What's the process?
Well, that statement was taken out of context, I can assure you, because I was in church. It was at the burial of Governor Sullivan Chime's mom. Okay? And the point that the president was making is that, look, these problems have been there. I mean, it's a commonsensical thing. And it's been a subject of a lot of theoretical investigation. And of course, you know, you either stand on one side or the other. But the point he was making is that, look, President Jonathan did not invent these problems, which is a commonsensical thing. It's basic, it's true. You cannot argue with that. But he went a step for that to say that he is committed to solving those problems. And that's the whole point of the transformation agenda. And each time he makes that statement, he calls out to Nigerians for their support. He makes the point that, look, to transform Nigeria is a collective responsibility. And all of us must play our own part. I don't see what the big deal is about that, but I've seen, you know, a lot of controversy online, people just isolating one convenient portion of a statement and then blowing it out of proportion.
Now, Dr. Abati, one more, because we have a lot of our viewers who really want to talk to you, and we thank you for coming on this show, and we hope we will continue to have this conversation. But one more question. I have a question here that says, why did the president and his cabinet members that went to that church on the anniversary of his 1 year in office refuse to say amen to the prayer that we should deal with corruption in the country? What actually happened there?
But you know that this is absolute mischief. You know, mischief on a grand scale. I mean, if you are in church, you know how the church was, the setting of that church. Most of these people making these claims, they were not even anywhere close to where the president and the ministers were sitting. But the president was not even sitting together with the ministers. He was sitting together with the ministers.
So simply,
so there was no way anybody could count how many times he said amen.
But did he say amen?
Saying amen is a spiritual thing. Okay? And it's a personal thing. You know, when a man goes to church, he's in a personal relationship with his God. If you read that story, it came from a website that indicated clearly that this is a parody. Okay? The people have been quoting it. They've been saying, Reuben Abati said a section of the Constitution prescribes protocol, but of course, you know that is absurd. But for its entertainment value, I think a lot of people have derived a lot of excitement from it.
All right, Dr. Abati, thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you, Rudolph.
We really hope that we will make it a frequent thing so that you can help clear some of these issues when they come up.
No problem.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Regards to Shore.
All right, thanks.